G'day, doggies, fans, all things Bulldogs. It's the grand final preview. We're here with Gas, and we probably don't have any people on as yet, so we will wait a little bit. Welcome to anyone who's come along to say hello. Going to be a big show. We're not going anywhere. It's Bulldogs all year round, 24/7.
Welcome all.
How you going, Gas?
I'm good, mate. Thank you, Michael.
No entry. Beware the Bulldogs.
That's it. Keeping it busy before the next season, mate.
Gonna have to see. Look, the season's over for a lot of dogs, so we probably won't get as many people here tonight. But welcome to those that have come along and said hi. Might share to a few other places. Bit rushed tonight. Say hello in the chat if you're available.
Evenings, Reg.
How you going, Reg? Welcome. We'll get a few more people on, then we'll start. But I love that picture of Birdo. Or is that Critter? Can't tell.
Might be Burton for that side. I'm not sure. Bit of a Zach can confirm it for us. He's got the zoom in.
It's Critter. That's what
Critter.
I thought. It says
Captain Courageous.
Yeah. I think that was after he scored the try against the Raiders at Belmore.
In the corner. Is that the one where he kicked for himself?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
We dominated that game and only just won it. So that's been the tale of the last couple of years.
Yep. You got to win those games over and over again.
Nothing is easy. I reckon when we get to 10 people, we'll start. It'll happen shortly. So what have you been up to, Gas?
Mate, watching the weekend's footy and the Ryder Cup was pretty exciting. So the golf was pretty good. So it was another good win for the Europeans over the Americans. A lot of controversy about the behaviour of the Americans again. They really took the etiquette away from golf and just turned it into a scream fest. There was a lot of abuse, but it was always, I think, to be honest, I think they're the ones that helped the Europeans get really riled up and fired up. It rubbed them the wrong way.
Greg's relieved the 5-peat's over.
Yeah, just a shame we couldn't stop them, mate, but it's all right. Someone else did.
I think in a way we did stop them, to be honest. You know, I think Ivan respected the Bulldogs a little bit too much in that second half. He kept his son on the field for 80. Probably didn't need to. Played a bunch of players out for the whole game. I guess, and the fact that we had 65% possession in the second half, and then they only get a 6-day turnaround, they're always going to be vulnerable late. Always. Yeah. So
we forced them to play the full 80 minutes as well. So that second half we played, you know, they had to really keep fighting for it. So we took any of that remaining legs they had coming from 7th position, we took that away from them. And that second half, that week off for Brisbane really was the difference in the end.
Yep. So it's looking like it's going to be a pretty quiet night on a Tuesday, but that's all right. Everyone's watching the home and away wedding, apparently.
I'm glad you know about it. I've never heard of it.
I heard about it tonight.
Okay. Didn't even realise that show was still on.
Since 1988, mate. It's 1988. Come on, let's get to 10 people and we will kick-start this beast.
Tomorrow, mate, the Daly M's, huh? So that's why it's good we did it tonight. Get out of the way.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Daly M's.
Yep.
We're going to talk about the new Bulldogs website we've created. We'll talk about the Ashes tour and the Bulldogs that could be going on that. All the latest Bulldog news. Critter and Kickow have actually pulled out of the Pacific Championships. It's not a bad thing.
Yep.
We're going to need them next year. Kickow's getting married.
He's going to have to fix his eye socket up so he can look pretty for his photos.
I think my the banner on my having the Storm and Broncos people on it's probably upset the apple cart. They're like, I'm not going to watch. I can't be bothered watching this.
Yeah,
that's all right. We might have to just settle for who's here. Love the one we're with, eh?
That's it.
Thanks for being here, Reg. We normally got about 30 people by now, but that's normal. It's the off season. This happens. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. So let's show the teams and everything like that straight up, shall we?
Yep, go for it, mate.
Get straight into it. Doo-doo. Oh, it's struggling a bit with the internet, is it?
Yours is a bit on the slow side, I think. It's just, yeah.
Shouldn't be. Should be like 250. There we go. Maybe I can make it smaller. Trying to make it bigger. I might get rid of our faces for the time being.
That's fine, mate.
No loss there. Sorry about that, guys. So here's the teams. The Storm have got their big four in: Pappenhausen, Hughes, Munster, and Harry Grant. The forward pack of Stefano Uetikamanu, Josh King, Sean Bloor, Alisi Katoa, Trent Liero. The bench of Wishart, Lasati, Tui Kami Kamika, and Alec McDonald. And Grant Anderson, who's pretty much been in this side most of the year, is on the reserves bench. And he is off to the Broncos next season as the 18th man. The Broncos side, we've got Reece Walsh, Josiah Karapani, Katoni Staggs, Shibasaki, Dean Mariner, Ben Hunt, Adam Reynolds, Corey Jensen, Corey Pakes, Payne Huss, Brendan Piakura, Jordan Rickey, and Patrick Carrigan. Ezra Mam, Kobe Haverington, Xavier Willison, and Tyson Smoothie on the bench. Smoothie actually did a really good job for them the other week. And Jesse Arthur's currently the 18th man. I don't think there'll be any changes to the teams if they're all fit and ready to go.
It's pretty much the strongest teams they can both put out, I think.
Yep.
Which is a good thing to do at the end of the year. I think the extra 2 days rest for Melbourne could be pivotal in this match. Broncos had to work pretty hard to beat Panthers the other day in pretty tough conditions. I think it was it Payne Haas was cramping up early in that second half. So, big effort to play 80 minutes and do what he had to do. Even that chase at the end there in the 79th minute, chasing Cleary and Edwards for the drop goal. So that was a pretty big effort from him just to keep going. So anything for a win they did, which was amazing to stop that 5-peat.
Yeah, well, I will say this. Look, it's probably the two of the teams we hate the most as Dogs fans. But look, they're full of talent. I think the Broncos are grossly underestimated all season. It's funny, one of our fellow podcasters probably getting a fair few views for some of the comments he said about the Broncos, that he's written them off all year, and now they're in the grand final. So I blame him. Good old Elmo.
Yep.
You know, win and loss bias seems to demonstrate the outrage with people rather than looking at the situation. And this Broncos team, what people forget from 2023, they're all 2 years older now. I know that brings Adam Reynolds and Ben Hunt potentially makes them not as good, but at the same time, they're pretty fresh. Like Reynolds continues to have injuries, so he's not getting battered. He's getting little breaks here and there. You know, the resurgence of some players like Shibasaki, they won that third Origin with him in there. Katoni Staggs is probably in the top 3 or 4 centres in the game, and the best centre in the game when he plays at his best. And Reece Walsh is 2 years older since then, and definitely playing with a lot more, a little bit more poise in important moments. Like the amount of 40-20s and shit like that he gets just shows he's got a lot of skill. Players like Brendan Piakura, just time to the minute. Jordan Ricky, who went off the ball, is nearly back to his most aggressive best. Patrick Carrigan's had a freshen up last week. Him coming in is going to give those halves that little bit more space. You all know about Payne Haas. And, and Ezra Mam, it doesn't matter what people think of him with what he did. I think that's the NRL's fault and the justice system's fault and the Broncos' fault. But in my opinion, Ezra Mam is one of the best footballers, young halves in the game. He's an elite player, and anyone who's ever watched him play coming through knows exactly what I'm talking about. Kobe Hetherington, tough as nails. I think every Bulldogs fan would welcome him to the club. Xavier Willison is he's going to be better for that run last week, so he'll be a better player. And Tyson Smoothie was really instrumental in that comeback. I'll tell you what, all I can hear is aeroplanes taking off around where you live, mate.
Yes.
Can you hear that?
No, I don't hear it anymore, mate. It's the small.
Honestly, did you have aeroplanes going past your house or what?
It's Bankstown Airport's out there, mate. So they come and go nearby, yeah.
Yeah, I can hear it loud and clear through my speakers.
I'll mute my mic when you're talking.
Oh, that's probably a good idea. Just make sure you turn it back on. The dead silence, though, it's so annoying. Oh, we've got 10 viewers. You can hear us clapping, lads. So, look, with the Storm, obviously, they come into this season favourites. The final 4 teams in the prelims were literally the first 4 teams in betting to start the year. And it doesn't matter what happened during the year. It actually went to script when it came to the business end of town. And really, Melbourne can't have a stronger side either. So both sides are pretty much at full strength, except for the fact that Selwyn Cobbo's sort of been injured. And obviously he's going to the Dolphins next year. So, yeah, they can't really get a better team in for the Melbourne Storm. And I thought the performance of Jerome Hughes, I thought he would not be nowhere near his best last week. And look, I felt the refereeing of that game, again, was stop-start. There was no time in play. It suited the Storm. Very good offset plays, very good at generating speed from slow rucks. Got a lot of speed in their side. I think the Broncos sort of are pretty adaptable to both types of games. And I think the early season flogging they copped was always going to flatten them out for a bit. But I think now they've come back and they've been building for 80-minute performances. And they're going to be very, very hard to beat. But I think that extra couple of days could be a huge feather in the Storm's cap. And Ryan, like the funny thing was, the Broncos' tries against the Panthers were all sort of ricochets and hard-fought efforts. The last try, Reece Welsh should not have been able to get that pass away. Many are saying it was a double movement too that wasn't looked at, which I don't think it was ever going to be, whether it was or not. And for the Storm, it was their spine. Jerome Hughes scores that try. You've got the little chip over chase for Pappenhausen from Munster. Just the big players standing up, and even in the game against us, it was Harry Grant and Munster combining. And their up-and-coming star, Tyrone Wishart, which made all the difference. Obviously, tries to Elise Katoa put us on the back foot after we lost Kickow after two minutes. So, the Storm have been building. They've yet to play their best game of rugby league this year, and I've got a feeling that's going to happen in the grand final, and I'm tipping them to win. But, Brisbane could run 40 on them. They're that sort of side. Any thoughts here, guys? What's your thought,
from my perspective, I honestly think both of the teams haven't played a perfect game. Like, they haven't played to their potential, both of them. I think they've both had moments where they've played, I think Storm have played a lot of good 40 minutes and then played some very ordinary second 40s or patches in the game where they've just been very ordinary. Even like you saw the game against the Roosters, they were doing well, leading, no tries, and then 40-0 second half. There's a lot of games where they haven't been the team that everyone wanted them to be, but everyone just at the back of their mind just kept saying they'll just find a way, and they have. They've got to the grand final. Brisbane the same way. If you look at the game against Canberra, they were getting touched up, and with or without their sin bins, Canberra was doing a number on them, and then they just click, and then all of a sudden, they put a bit of momentum and off they go. So both teams really have been very patchy through the season and doing enough. Broncos have had a few games where they've scored, multiple tries, 3-4 tries in a row, and then bang, just come over the top of some teams and won the game. They did it against us, down 18-0. They won 22-18. They've done quite a few of those games where they've just come out of the, a tight game and just blown teams away. Now, against each other, that's going to be interesting. It's going to come down to those key moments. But I think if you look back when Penrith won their first grand final, it came after that loss the year before to the Storm. So the Storm lost last year, and they'd be desperately sort of hungry not to lose again. But also the Broncos, you have to remember, lost it only 2 years ago in heartbreaking circumstances. So both teams are coming off technically like a grand final loss. So the hunger will be there for both teams. It will be a very interesting game, but when you put it all together, you still think that the Storm have got that more critical spine that can, withstand and create and do a bit more, and they will have those additional 2 days of rest, which could prove pivotal in the end, I think, especially at the back end of the game if it's still in the balance.
Yeah, really good points there, brother. What I'm going to do now is go through the team stats. We don't have many chats on at the moment, which, in a way, it just shows how dedicated our Bulldogs fans are to the Bulldogs.
So before
we don't really cover as much of the NRL stuff as well, but
yeah, you got a comment there you can comment on if you like before you get into the stats.
Yep.
Broncos are gone this week. Week is piss. Lucky to beat the Raiders then beat Penrith, goodbye Broncos. Well, grand final is a grand final. Who knows? Anything can happen on that day. So it's, you got to just bring your best. I mean, look, one team cops one or two injuries, a head knock early in the game, it could turn the momentum to the other team. It's that kind of game at the moment where, Penrith were crying foul that their second rower got, a bit of a head knock and had to go off in Category 1. Then he passed his HIA, but that's the breaks. It happens to a key player in the game. It could shift the game as well. So, let's go through some stats, mate.
Look, I don't think that I don't think enough goes into what happens in a game. Like the rugby league commentary and TV media have got a lot to answer for in the way they dumb things down. Like the context of a player in a certain position going off early in a match completely changes things. And, yet all they want to do is bring it back to headlines. Like if Brisbane lose that game, Buzz Rothfield comes out and says, "Oh, I told you that Madge McGuire worked them too hard. They had 2 weeks off and still couldn't beat the Panthers." Like he'd come out and say that. But instead he's got egg on his face for another week. And he'll probably say it after the grand final. Until they win, then he'll go, "Oh, I guess I was wrong." The whole thing is, there we go, mate. I'll actually put up the new, I've got a whole bunch of stats. So if you're reading along the bottom, you will actually see a whole bunch of Broncos and Storm stats, and there will be some that relate to the Bulldogs as well. But that's exactly what you said, Amir. 2006 Bulldogs were beaten in the semi-finals by eventual premiers Brisbane. This year, we were beaten in the semis by Melbourne. The last time these teams met in a finals game was in 2023, and the Broncos beat the Storm 26-0 in the 2023 final series on their way to a grand final defeat. So there you go. It's all about Munster. His father died this year. He won the Origin series. Now the script has been written for the Storm. I would assume you're a Storm fan. The Storm is coming. If that's the case, good on you. Good to have you here. And I think I've seen a couple of your comments. But look, the Bulldogs, in my opinion, in the last 3 times they've played the Storm, should have won every 3 games. And I think it's actually a really good, we pulled the Storm's pants down in 2023. Should have beat them in 2024. Shoulda, coulda, didn't. Didn't beat them. And that just shows you where the Dogs are at. We just lack that extra bit of class to get it done. We find ways to lose rather than finding ways to win. And that's why there's been a couple of changes in our spine, because they've had a bit of time to sort of develop that ability, and it hasn't sort of panned out. So the thing is, a Melbourne Storm team or a Panthers side or a Broncos side, that they don't need to have that situation where they, look, the Broncos brought in Brodie Croft, for example, who was doing pretty well at the Storm as their backup. They got the wooden spoon and booted him, like these clubs, these big clubs don't hang around with players that don't handle the pressure in big moments. And the Bulldogs want to be that, so they're not going to do that either. So they're willing to cop a hit if it means waiting to get someone who can handle pressure. And one thing I'll say about Lockie Galvin, he seems to handle pressure pretty well, considering the fact that there's 10 million impressions out there with about 9 million of them, which basically say he's this, that, and the other. They're all unfavourable towards him. So anyway,
I think that game, that second half he had against Panthers, I think that's going to do him the world of good. That confidence he would have got out of what he did to Penrith in that second half, even the way that he's set up and scored that try in the first half. I think that was the unlocking of Lucky Galvin that game. That sort of, coach will walk away and tell him, you know what, look at, things didn't go away, but you still unlocked the team. You still caused havoc for them and won the second half and had a good performance. Yeah, take away a few of the mistakes which are going to happen. But I think he will get a lot of confidence out of that game and hopefully that can just unshackle him a bit and let him sort of, believe in himself a bit more and just take teams on take the game by the scruff of the neck and own it like sort of the real good sort of halves do.
Yeah. Look, we'll get more into the Bulldogs after we finish talking about that. I know I brought that up and that was really good. 100% agree, Gas. Storm is coming, says, Dogs are my second team. Sorry, we took Meaney. Look, Nick Meaney with the Dogs, actually, he was one that Gus Gould was willing to keep out of that whole squad that he turned over. So he was willing to keep Nick Meaney. They offered him 250 grand. I'll tell you, see, this shows you how teams like the Storm stay successful. So they let go of the Fox and the Bulldogs pay 550 grand for the Fox. They then get Xavier Coates for 350 grand and they get Nick Meaney for 250 grand. So they get two players, one that's a utility that can kick goals at a just as high a percentage as their first choice kicker. So you know what I mean? Like Nick Meaney kicks goals just as good as Pappenhausen pretty much. He can play fullback, centre, wing, 5'8", probably play him off as a lock in the middle if they had to or as a halfback. They get him for 250. The Dogs offered him 250 as well to stay because that's all we could afford with what we needed to do. And look, while I've got no regrets about Nick Meaney, I'm so glad that he's doing well for the Melbourne Storm. He was just one of those players that Dogs fans actually really liked for just the way he went about his business. And if I sort of think if there's a Norman Proven Summons medal, like he's a type of player who exemplifies, although he got a little bit banterish with the Dogs this year, I think that's more the case that he's probably been one that's been bullied a bit by a lot of players. And he's sort of standing up now. But I think he's just a really good player. And but that's what I mean. For the price of a Josh Addo-Carr, they got Xavier Coates and Nick Meaney. And for us, we lost a Nick Meaney to get a Josh Addo-Carr. And but for the Canterbury, that meant so many more bums on seats. The kids had a hero to follow. It meant jersey sales. The Let's Trot that he produced. All the kids were trying to buy that gear. People in Belmore and that were walking around in Let's Trot's gear all over Australia, actually, It just created that excitement and give us the ability to score tries and give us that variation that we couldn't sort of do. So this is just where it's at for the big teams, Storm get Uoi Tikamanu, who turned his back on the West Tigers, really got praised for doing it. And I know he went the next season, but that's because Wests are desperate, you know what I mean? He didn't want to stay there. He didn't believe in Benji. He didn't believe in their organisation. And now he's playing a grand final for Melbourne. Was nowhere near his best in Origin, but that Origin series really has his performances in the last 4 or 5 weeks have been the highest level he's ever gone to. And he's going to need to even go up another level to match the Husses and Carrigans this week.
Well, he set up that try against us.
Sorry.
He set up that try against us too, Mick.
Yeah.
For Wishart, yeah.
Yeah, he just knocked off Josh Curran like he wasn't there.
Yep.
And then...
Yep.
All right, what's some chat to you, brother?
Did you know Bellamy inquired about Galvin down here in Melbourne? He put out a feeler to see if he was interested in a Storm jumper, but he never wanted to leave Sydney. If Bellamy wanted Galvin, it says it all.
Well, there you go. There you go. Amir says, I can't stand Melbourne. No one cares about them. I mean, look, I'm loyal to you as a Dogs fan, brother, but and look, when I'm watching the Storm and the Broncos, I hate both sides equally. Like, I'll be going for Melbourne because I can't stand the Broncos, but at the same time, I've got nieces and nephews and cousins, and even me father-in-law is a good bloke, who just love the Brisbane Broncos. You know, they watch every game, they go to all the games and stuff, and so I won't be unhappy for them. Put it that way. Galvin and Law. Well, look, I still think it was a good moment, and it just shows that those two guys, more so for Lawwide, to go up to him and put his arm around the kid like that. I thought that was impressive, and I actually like Jerome Luai. I like a lot of the Polynesian players. I just think they bring an honesty to the game which is lacking in society, unfortunately. And I don't think there's always malicious intent. Do you think we need Thompson and someone else? I feel it's not enough. Yeah, I think we do need other players, and we're going to have to develop them or see what happens on this off season. I think we'll see another one or two Bulldogs leave that we don't expect, and I think we will see another forward coming to the club over the off season. But it's not a big. For me, it's having that bigger 13. Like right now, they're happy to sort of go with Man and Salmon and whoever else can fit that role. But I actually believe that we need a 80-minute or 75-minute guy who's about 105, 110 kilo that can pass like Man and Salmon, that can pass like a half, but also dent the line when they want. Basically what Kurt Mann does, but I've been arguing with someone for all week about Kurt Mann. He can't do it for 80 minutes in the middle. He's not big enough. That's why they have to rotate two players. But if they can get away with just having one player there who plays 80 minutes each week like Isaiah Yeo, that's 3 extra interchanges they can use for a bigger forward to develop on the bench. It's sort of hard for Canterbury to bring these guys in and to give them minutes and then increase their minutes because we need to use our rotations so efficiently to win the match, whether it's against the 17th team or to compete against the top sides. Like that's been the tail of the tape. We have to carry 2 hookers now, which was always the plan this year and will be the plan until further notice. And we have to carry 2 13s, which means you've only got 2 other players in your rotation for the middle. So you've got to go with players that can play long minutes, which for us are mobile, basically edge back rowers. You know, you get an extra player in there that's like you could throw an Underhill on the bench and give him 15 minutes and then in the next game give him 20 and give him 25 and start to build him that way. But it's very hard to do when you're using so many interchanges through our locks because and sorry to keep talking, but that's the whole other part about Toby Sexton. Toby played a role in our side, but as Serrato said, and I've said it for the last 2 years, we've got this hybrid way of doing things. We don't have genuine halves, and we never had genuine halves or genuine half style of play in 2012 or in 2014. Hodgkinson was definitely a great 7, no doubt, but we always had those big boys going into first receiver and giving space to our halves, which isn't how it's done in a lot of clubs. G'day, Timmy. Good to see you, mate. I wasn't sure you're here.
Hey, Timmy.
So, what's happening with the chat there, brother? But I still haven't done the stats, but I'll let you do a bit more chat.
Yep. So next question that Timmy asked. Timmy, we covered a little bit of that as well. The Broncos having the extra 2 days, 2 days off will work in their favour. We think that'll be huge. And if you want to go down the next one as well, Patrick Carrigan will be a big inclusion for them as well. He was hugely missed in the middle there. He's very creative and does a lot for Reece Walsh out the back as well. So that's going to be a big inclusion for them. It'll obviously assist them with their rotations, and it'll probably allow, I think, Payne Haas to have a bit of time on the sideline this week instead of playing 80 minutes. I think he maybe compensated for Carrigan a bit last week, I think, overall.
Yeah. Abraham, welcome, mate. He's got a good point here as well.
Yep, so the Storm struggled in the second half, and the Broncos are the best second half team. The Dogs almost made a comeback in round 25, and the Roosters had a comeback against the Storms at 40-0, and a few other teams have done that. But I think, Abraham, if you look at the way the games have been played this year, a lot of teams, and I think if you look at the Bulldogs, 32-0 second half against the Raiders, a lot of teams, when they get that momentum and they get on a roll, they just, no matter who you are, you can't stop them. We were playing Canberra, they couldn't stop it. It was just a wave of momentum. Same thing with the Broncos. Once they started against us, 18-0 down, bang, 22 points in a hurry. They just took care of the match in quick time. And it's happened to a lot of teams. Even if you remember, Titans almost pulled the upset against Penrith. A lot of teams, when they get on that run, it doesn't matter who you are, that possession and that play. And the Broncos have had that running in the second half a lot in games, and they've made it count. So it just depends on sometimes how the game's refereed, to be honest. Unfortunately, there is a lot of influence in that sometimes. So if the referee allows the teams to play, then the fatigue factor towards the end of that game could come into it a bit. But the Broncos will feel like wherever they are, you're right, they'll still be able to win a game. Just like against, who would have thought they'd beat the Raiders when they had two players in the bin? I mean, that just shows their belief. And as Mick pointed out, the coach training them to be an 80-minute team, in the off season, to the detriment of Buzz. So there'll be a lot to play out on that. But I still think the Storm haven't played their best game of the year, and I think if they do, I don't think Brisbane can go with them for the full 80 minutes, because Brisbane, for all what they do in that second half, they still leak too many in the first half, and if they don't get it right, the game could be beyond them.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to add much more to that except for that when the Broncos have got so many good players and so much talent, and I think they would have had the most 40-20s this year by far, I would suggest as well. That is a great way of turning momentum in itself. They've got a lot of experience in their team, a lot of youth. And look, Madge Maguire, I don't think he's made them a premiership winning chance. I think he's a coach that can coach and knows what it takes to win. But I think you give this Broncos side to most coaches in the NRL, and they're going to do pretty well with it once they unlock it. But Abra's right. They are the best second half team all season. Like they have, since that Bulldogs come back, they've been very, very consistent in coming home. They're never beaten, and that's a good trait to have. And I think that's what a lot of good teams have in common. They're just hard to beat. And I'd say the Storm, you are right, have faded in a lot of games, but they're still really hard to beat. They still win games which they fade in. They still beat us twice. They still beat, I expected the Roosters to smash them when they lost all those players, the Storm. And I knew the last two games, they rested half their team. Yeah. They're always going to be vulnerable. Always. So like and subscribe while you're there, guys. Send me money, do whatever you want to do. Amir's going to I think we'll just finish off these chats here, mate, and then we'll go into the next.
If you go to the next one for Amir, so he was asking, when he asked a question about the second rowers he was asking that, where do you get them, and you were answering that about blooding the new players and having a look. Like there isn't much around to just grab them like you would walking into Coles, but yeah.
Well, Wiramu Greg is a really big prop. He's just been released by Parramatta, and I would have probably signed him in 2023 because that's where my mentality was. Oh, they're big and they look good, and he played hard and tough. But it's funny. Serraldo made a really really good point, and I was actually going to say this to Gas today, but I forgot. He made the point, and I've been saying it all year, is that a lot of teams are actually copying the Serraldo sort of blueprint to make themselves more competitive, and it's coming from the sides that are near the bottom of the ladder, and that's why Serraldo expects they will improve. They're actually carrying more mobility in their rotation. They're carrying a couple of hookers. They're using two people in that 13 role. Now, it's not the formula to win comps with. It's the formula to allow you to play for 80 minutes and keep competing. So if there's any chinks in the other team's armor, or if you're able to compete and a big side like Cronulla can't hold the footy, all these big sides, if they start knocking the ball on and don't hold possession, they can't defend their way. It's been a common denominator. That's why the Bulldogs keep winning, because they kept going for 80 minutes. But against the good sides, and when I say the good sides with good spines and those sort of heavier packs that are experienced and know where to run and know where they want to play the game of rugby league, you find you're using more energy to contain them in the ruck, which means that you're more susceptible to give away penalties, which is what we did. We were the number one penalised side in the comp. And the other part of that, Amir, is we were, then would start making fatigue errors ourselves, which compounded the problem. So the fact that we're only sort of had our pants pulled down 4 times in the year, I've seen us win comps and make grand finals and stuff when we've been annihilated through the season at different times. Even in 2004, I think we had a couple of big losses. There wasn't too many disappointing results, and most had excuses or had strong reasons. And for the Penrith game, you put Critter in our side, they just don't run in 34 points in that scenario. Maybe they run in 3 or 4 tries, but I don't think they get out to a 34-8 lead. So, look, I think what clubs are doing, South Sydney, I've noticed that the Dolphins using Donahue at 13, and then they're having all these young fellas that they're using, Plath, playing that ball playing role, having a direct, large halfback that can take on the line, but also, has great kicking and poise for a young age in Katoa. They're a team they'll get that. They get someone like Flegler back and get a couple of their big boys, get some luck with injury. They'll take the next step but what they've had to do to keep competitive, to stay in games and then utilize their speed out wide, is to have that greater mobility. And I saw Bennett changing his team in 2024 to match when he knew that they weren't going to make finals. He sort of started with that legacy, and Christian Wolf took it on as well. And, they weren't too far off the Dolphins. So they're a team I expect to make the 8 next year. I expect the Dragons will be a bit more mobile next year. I think they'll be very hard to keep out of the 8. And I just put the Bulldogs in this whole group of teams from 15th or 16th spot all the way to about 6th or 7th spot. I think we're still going to be in that group, and we're going to have to bank points however we can to get ourselves to finals, to have another crack at one of those big guns and hopefully get a winner. That's for me, that's the reality for the Bulldogs. So a long-winded answer, but you're right, Amir. You can't just go by them. Leo Thompson was the first prop forward that we've been linked to that another club wanted to sign, that his own club wanted to keep, and he chose us. Him and Galvin are the only 2 players where there's actually been a real fight for their signature. and we've actually won it. Everyone else has just walked into our club and not gone anywhere else. And they're like all those players that come from Penrith, except for Matt Burton. So there's 3 players we literally fought hard to get in our entire rebuild since 2021 that other clubs were interested in either keeping or making a play for, like an actual out there in the media play, realistic play. So it just shows how far we're off. Like the teams like the Storm and Panthers and that, they get the players they need and want. They don't lose players they don't want to lose. Roosters are the same. They keep the players they want to keep, and they upgrade the players they want to upgrade. It's as simple as that. And we're getting to that point, but we're not there yet. But things are looking better. So when people keep regretting the Alamotis and all these other players that have left our club, like, take it back to who was there when we let them go, and what was the situation? What were fans thinking about these players? What was their form? How did it all appear? What was happening with their managers? All that's part of the context. And no one talks about that. They just talk about the hindsight reaction after a loss, and will literally find anything to gravitate towards to sling shit at the club because they can't handle the emotion of losing. And I get it. You should hear me talking to the television as if it can hear what I'm saying. Anyway, we've gone on a bit there. I reckon we'll get back to these chats because I've put us behind by about 15 minutes. I'll actually let you answer a couple of these chats before we finalise the stats on the Broncos, which I've been talking about for half an hour.
Yep. So we've already covered this, Abraham, so the Broncos. Yep. Any good potential playing minutes slot? There's not many at the moment. We're going to try to develop those from within. We've covered that a bit. For anything that we've already covered, guys, if you haven't heard it, if you've jumped in late, you can probably have a look at it a bit later on when you watch the review. Thanks a lot, Timmy. Timmy's saying his mum and pop had a sign when they lived at their place. Designated parking for Bulldogs fans only. If you support anyone else, you aren't permitted to park. Yep. So, we'll come there, mate. We'll wave our flag and park in there. I'm not so sure about that one, Mick, with the contract. I know that's been spoken about for a while about Nelson, whether he's coming off or not, but he hasn't been in favour. Obviously, he's suspended now, but he hasn't been in favour. So, do you have anything else to add to that one?
Look, Blake Austin, who's a breath of fresh air when it comes to podcasts and pundits out there analysing the NRL, I'd say that he's the best I've ever heard. I'll say that easily. Like, no outrage, just pure, concise, adding layers of context that other people aren't speaking about. So big shout out to him. But he actually said the Dogs should sign a player like Nas, because a player like him comes on in the style of a Cassiano or what the Bulldogs. I think Bulldogs fans would be genuinely excited about a Nas if he goes out there and he breaks down the fence as it is, and he'll put players like Lachlan Galvin on the front foot. And Galvin, he made the comparison that Galvin's been playing in them Western Sydney private boys or private schools, dedicated rugby league schools all his life. And they're just filled with kids which are the biggest in their grades, like big Polynesians and Tongans and whatever else. Half of them are born in Australia too, by the way. So they're full Aussies. Their heritage is from overseas. And he sort of always played on the front foot. And he was actually playing in the second row himself a fair bit at different times. So he's just a skillful footballer who can get things done when you give him a chance. And we just had to see, when we had that possession, you get him near that halfway line, he is an absolute demon. If you go back to the very first trial, West Tigers versus Bulldogs, I know there was only a few first graders playing in the game. He looked dangerous every time he got the football in that game on about the halfway line, on fourth and fifth tackle. He's just such a threat for running the ball, and he will, and he's not scared to do it. So but that only happened after good sets from his forward pack. And a player like Nelson Asafa Solomona, Blake Austin said would really help the Bulldogs in that. I said that's all well and good, but he's got to be able to play at least 20 minutes straight out, full on tempo, and we'd be a lot more effective if we had like a Trent Liero at lock or a Patrick Carrigan or, or an Isaiah Yeo, where we could just have that extra interchange up our sleeve, because that would definitely allow us to use a weapon like Nelson Asafa Solomona a lot more. I think he would be a good signing in the fact that there'd be a lot of positive press from it, except for the people saying that we're over the cap or whatever else, which I don't know how when half our team is made up of utilities. Yeah, but good question, Timmy. What's the next one, Gas?
What do you think we need to do to become a genuine threat next year? So I think we've pretty much covered that with all the additional players that we probably need in the team, being that sort of Carrigan, Isaiah Yeo type player, especially because it's costing us 3 interchanges, like you said. So I think we need to probably work within what we've got at the moment. A lot of the players that we've got coming through, I think there's some good potential there. Mick's actually doing some good insights, and we'll talk about his new website later, which is very exciting. But he'll be doing a lot of insights into a lot of the players in the kennel that are coming through. That'll be players to watch, and I think we've already started to see that this year. So Jack Todds and these other players, and he's already mentioned the Jack Underhills, etc. But I think the big one for me is if we potentially can get someone like a Mitch Wood into the team, and he starts to do his business. And sometimes you look at these players and you think, well, what's he doing in the other grades? Well, he's doing what he can. But when you put them with a first grade team and you have a decent pack in front and behind and a back line, it's kind of like the cricketers. You ever seen the cricketers when they play for Australia, they all shine because you've got good players all around you. Where you put them in their grade team, sometimes it's not. So yeah, I think you'll find that with a good team. Mitch Woods, I'll be very interested to see how he goes, and that could be for us that little bit of an edge that we need to come out the other side. So be interested to see how that all works, but I think that's going to be something that will help us become a genuine threat next year if he can get going. Even if it takes him, a few sort of rounds before he gets in the team, etc. Who knows? But yeah.
All right. Well, look, let's. What I'm going to do, Gas, is just flick to the Broncos-related questions, get these stats done, and then we can make it all about the Bulldogs.
Yeah, sounds good, mate.
To run home there, because we've sort of sabotaged our own podcast by defaulting to what we love the most, which is our Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs.
No problem there.
Lucas has said hello to both of us. G'day, Lucas. Welcome. And he's glad Ashley Klein is ref in the grand final. I am as well, but look, I don't like Grant Atkins either. I do think if Grant Atkins was refereeing our games against Melbourne and against Penrith, we might have been waiting for the Sharks in
week 2,
in that prelim,
week 3,
and that changes absolutely everything. And the reason I just say that is because he didn't allow Penrith to do a lot of the crap they were doing to us, but he's saying that Broncos offered a bit more resistance in having those bigger forwards that could handle it. But I don't. The Storm pack are tough, but they're not as good as the Broncos pack at their best. Like they're not as destructive with the ball. Without the ball, they're a Melbourne Storm side. You know what I mean? So, look, I think Alesi Katoa and Sean Bloor are are two of the best. One of the best edge back row combinations, and Josh King's unheralded, and Ui Tikamanu, as I said, is doing a lot better. But I found that they were really playing the game well to target our little guys as best they could. even to the point where I noticed that Galvin and Sexton sort of played in different spots at different times in the defensive line. So we matched some bigger players up on the edges at different times just to try and stop the obvious way they were trying to target us. They still got us in other ways, but Salmon they can't play 80 minutes full strength, mate, doing the job they got to do, because it's not just with and without the ball. It's the support plays. It's getting around the field. It's all the passing they got to do. And Salmon doesn't do many hit ups, but he's the ground he covers is, if not the more ground than most of the players out on the field while he's on it. And that's why he's in the side. G'day, Peter. Welcome.
Hey, Pete.
Still a fair way to go. That's to do with personnel, maybe another year or two. I don't know when it'll be, Peter. I think the big mistake that Gus made was at Penrith was saying it was going to be 5 years and then it was going to be another 5. And I think the fact he hasn't put a time limit on it has been instrumental in our progression, because, you know, within their walls, the pressure's high on the players, but for the fan base, it sort of doesn't allow that media to sort of attribute anything to it. But it could be 1 year, could be 2 years, could be 10 years, mate. Sharks have had a good side with hardly any disruptions and a good draw for 4 or 5 years. Pete knows how good a player Nico Hines is, and they still haven't made that grand final, you know, with so much stability and so many assets in there and balance in their squad. And they've got a really good coach as well. So it's hard. It's real hard. It's Melbourne, Brisbane, Penrith. The last 2 teams Penrith beat, Melbourne and Brisbane, you know. And outside of that, it's been Roosters. So all the teams that have won the last grand finals, the Bulldogs had to play them on the run home, you know. G'day, Michael. Welcome. You're always late, as long as you're not late for breakfast, brother. Can both teams this weekend lose? Because I hate both of them. Yeah. Look, I think it'll still be an outstanding game of rugby league, and I'll be going for the Storm. But let's look at these statistics. So 59 games in the NRL era, and the Storm have won 43 out of 59 against the Broncos. Amazing. Broncos won the last clash, which was the first time they'd beaten Storm in the last 16 clashes or something. They're on a massive winning game run. Lots of high-scoring victories. Lots of close victories. Whereas the Storm beat the Bulldogs, lost to the Roosters, lost to the Broncos, beat the Dogs again, and then beat the Sharks. So you would say that in a way they've had the softer draw, the Storm, but I wouldn't say that. I think the Bulldogs pushed them to the limit and have helped prepare them very well for semi-final football. 19 from 26 for the Storm, 17 from 26 for the Broncos in the regular season. Oh, no, that counts the semis as well. Both teams almost identical in the amount of points they've scored. Storm conceding about 60 points less, completing at the same rate. Tackle efficiency almost identical. Play the ball speed nearly identical. Storm 20 from 31 at a claw, but Broncos 17 from 38. But the Broncos have a 3-1 lead over the Storm at Accor Stadium, apparently. Wins overall, Broncos 54% and the Storm 65%. An unrivaled statistic. So there you go. Faith says up the Broncos again. Amir says, I don't believe Cronulla have the halves to win a comp. What I would say, Amir, is that their halves aren't experienced enough. Nico Hines, to me, I think that Braden Trindle is a highly underrated player and potentially can look. He has to go to another level, that's for sure. But another year of finals experience, and he's got the game to do it. Nico, as a footballer, is as good as any of the halves in the comp. As a footballer, with his mindset and what he's done as a half, he needs to take another step as well in the big moments. He struggles. He does, but he still does good things. You know, he tackles his ass off. He puts his shoulder behind. He has a real crack, and he always tries to get involved. Like, he doesn't shirk the task. He just sometimes just fails in the big moments, and that comes down to the fact he's only been a half for 4 years. Jerome Hughes has been a half for how long? But he was a fullback to start. Munster was a fullback to start. Pappenhausen's a full. The Storm just buy fullbacks and then make a team out of it. Michael, he's got a good stat. Melbourne are winless on the 5th of October, in which they lost 40-0 to Manly in 2008. But Cameron Smith didn't play that
Cameron
match.
Smith, that was the big one, yeah, suspension.
And they've never beaten the Broncos in a grand final. They've only played them once, though, I think. G'day, Mughuss. Welcome. You finished the other one, have you? Any breaking news? Has Elmo's tipped Melbourne by 40, has he?
Hey, Mughuss.
There you go. And everyone's come along to say hello. All right, well, we're going to make it about the Bulldogs now, shall we?
We'll talk about a few of the rumours that were floating around this week.
Oh, sorry about that, brother. I hope you're all right. I hope, and our best wishes to you, mate. Do you think? Let's go to Pete. We'll get back. We'll go because he's still talking about the Broncos. Payne has 80 minutes, 186 meters, 78 post contact, 46 tackles. Repeats that. The Broncos win.
And no missed tackles either.
No. What I will say, Pete, and I say it on this show a lot, is that Payne Huss does a lot of the old school stuff. You know, he takes runs out of the back end. He works tirelessly in defence. His ankles are fucked. You know, like he shouldn't even be playing. He's got one more big game in him, and I don't know if he'll be fit to even play. He probably will play for Samoa though, because he has said he's going to play for them. He probably needs a couple of weeks off, that's for sure. I don't know what happens at the start of next year with him. But, yeah, look, if that would probably be the case if he gets 186 metres and makes... Well, look, I think if he has to make 46 tackles against the Storm, they probably don't win. That would mean the Storm have had more possession. I think the Storm will do more than what Penrith did. They're fresher. They've had that 9-day break, plus they had 2 weeks off before that. They've got their spine back. And I always say meters are just an outcome based on the context of the game. So, you know, when Max King gets 156 meters, we win the match. But why is that? It's because we've dominated possession. We've usually been up in the middle third and been on the front foot, kept teams in their own end, and then been getting heaps of kick return meters as well. And then he's able to take runs from that halfway line and stuff, you know. Whereas if we're coming off our own end, Max King doesn't touch the football hardly at all. And this is the sort of stuff that I keep talking about. Like we win games sometimes like that. But, the meters are generally a sign of how the team's performed in defence. And for the Bulldogs, just like any team, we hold possession, we complete above 80%. You don't really beat us. I think we have one loss with stats like that. But that's because of the way we stop teams from getting down to our end, and having players like Burton being able to kick the ball deep when we do have a bad set really, really helps us a lot, which will get us into some of these questions about the Bulldogs, Gas. And while we're at it, I might actually change our banner at the back and get rid of the Broncos off it. So go back to where people were talking about the Bulldog stuff. What do we need to do and all this sort of stuff?
Yeah. So Timmy was saying, he mentioned, there it was here. He believes the club will be top 6, but top 4 will be the aim as well. So for next season. So I think you mentioned in this podcast and also in the previous one that top 4 is not an automatic guarantee for the Bulldogs. It's going to be a challenge with what we've got. So I think you can reinforce that again. Yeah.
Look, I think Vegas will be treated like a grand final, which is sort of just the way it is. It's it's a really big occasion, and it means something a little bit more. To go all the way over there and actually to get a win is important. But even if you lose, you're able to use that to say, okay, we're way off the mark. We're disappointed over there on the big stage. We need to. I think the Warriors did a really good job of turning it into a positive this year, because everyone wrote them off after Vegas this year. So to start our season against the Dragons, who I think will be coming for us, I think they're coming for us. And I think I'll be saying that every time we play them for the next 5 years. As much as I hate to say it. So, look, are we going to make the top 4 next year? I wouldn't be counting on it. I think there's, it was so important that Bailey Hayward and Lachlan Galvin got to play a lot of minutes. We got to see what Critter could potentially do in an attacking role at fullback. So there's some green shoots there. Matt Burton hopefully has a really good preseason and comes back fit. There's some young fellas that I want us to have a look at as well that I think will be an important part of us that is sort of under the radar at the moment. It's all about Mitch Woods, but Mitch has got to get through the preseason. It'll only be second with the top 30 full time, and he's still very young and still very raw. But as far as his physicality, his body, he makes Galvin look like Galvin's 5 years old and Mitch is 25, he's ripped and shredded, is young Mitch Woods. And he's bulking up. He's not small anymore. He's not a boy anymore. He's grown into a man really quick. Whereas Galvin's still got the body of a teenage kid. There's a reason he won't take his shirt off in front of the boys, you know what I mean? So yeah, I wouldn't be, if I'm a betting man, if I'm a professional gambler, I'm not backing the Dogs to make top 4 next year. And that's without seeing the draw, If I look at the draw, if it's favourable towards us, which I don't think it will be, I think we're going to have to travel to New Zealand. We're going to be the away team. I think we'll be the home team for Magic Round if we're playing there. We're going to have to go away to – hopefully we get a home game against the Cowboys next year.
Storm. Cowboys.
We won't have to go there.
Storm, we've got home as well.
Well, Storm, for the last 3 years we've been away. It's not always guaranteed, but with Warriors it tends to go year for year, year on, year off. I'd say we're travelling to Redcliffe next year as well. And if we're playing, I don't know if we'll be playing the Broncos twice. Might only play them once next year. So it's all going to depend. But I'd say with that extra New Zealand run, that makes it a tougher year. And finishing top 4, you're probably going to play a lot more of the top 8. I think that's how it works, but I could be wrong.
But then it also will, the Origin will come into it, suspensions, injuries. That could be for every team. So maybe saying now, based on what we see, maybe not the top 4, but things happen for other teams as well. We might have a good run in that aspect compared to this year. We might 100%. Still get in there. So Serralda will be, that's his focus. And anyone who watched that podcast he did yesterday, he knows how important that top 4 finish is. So having that week off, so it's important, and that second bite at the cherry. So he won't be one that wants to go backwards. He'll want to be advancing. So as much as we're being realists, they'll want to be even more in the off season at a higher level than what they were this year, and that's saying something, hopefully. So let's see how that goes.
And I want nothing more than that, because there's so many people who are still sitting here preparing to say, I told you so. Like it was all a flash in the pan. Like there's so many people jealous of Cameron Serrato as well. Like I find like they just, it's when people talk about Gus and Serrato, it's like they're competing with them somehow in their mind. It's really weird, actually. Gratitude says, what do you think Gas Spine will be next year? What do you think, Gas? How do you think it's going to start after the preseason? What's your prediction?
I still think it'll be very similar to what our settled spine has been this year. I still think they'll put Burto and Galvin in the halves and Tracy Connor at fullback, and then I still think Haywood, another sort of off season under his belt, will start as hooker. I still don't see any change there, to be honest. I know that Gus alluded to Mitch Woods, but that's going to be something that they'll develop to be able to assist them when they do have the injury and origin disruptions as we start to get into the middle of the year. That's where he'll build that depth. But at the moment, I still think come Vegas, it's going to be very, very hotly contested. And if anybody watched Serralda yesterday, he actually said he's not picking the team, the players are. So how they come back from their weeks off and how they start the off season and how they want to push each other for those positions, that's, and I believe that he doesn't have any regrets about what he's done. And I think, I'm comfortable with that, because I was never in any doubt about what he did. But I think he will be strongly believing that the spine he's got will do the job next year. And he also alluded to the fact that Galvin will have a full off season, a lot of reps under his belt, rather than just preparing for a team each week. And I think all of us will be a bit surprised with the maturity and development of him and the way that he'll gel with the team next year. So that's going to be exciting stuff. That's what I'm really looking forward to see. A little bit of a bit more meatier, stockier Galvin coming through. With an extra, who knows, 5, 7, 10 kilos, whatever he can manage, and keep his finesse. Turn into that little bit of a Brad Fittler type of player after he was a kid. So that's going to be exciting. But that's what I see as the spine for now. I don't see anything else being too different until other factors outside of our control come into it or form.
Yep.
What about yourself, mate? What do you think?
The fact that the build up to Vegas is going to be like a final, does that give the Bulldogs the advantage? Oh, probably, mate. But I would also say that St. George have got a lot of experienced finals campaigners in their team. But for me, it's their youth that they've blooded over the last couple of years what's going to make the difference to them and make them harder to beat over 80 minutes. And I think Daniel Atkinson is an underrated player and will add to them. And whether we like Kyle Flanagan or not, I thought he had a good end to the year, and he'll only continue to get better at what he does. As much as people cringe or mock what I just said. Just as a little side point here, Timmy was talking about, he just quickly said, will they go on a run like Penrith? I don't believe any team's going to go on a run like that ever again, but never say never, Timmy. You never know. You're asking me to predict the lotto numbers there, brother. The Storm have gone back to back. They certainly have. Timmy says, I see teams like the Eels and Dolphins be in the mix for the top 8. Yeah, look, I think the Eels with Mitchell Moses and the amount of speed in their back line have got the potential to do anything. And I think I see them as having Jason Rolls as they're a team who's going to look to beat all these teams that are sort of in that huddle. Do I see him winning too many games over the best sides? No, I don't. Just say hello for me, Gas.
Hi, mate.
Just had to cut out that bloody jumbo jet driving past. I love a Dogs final again. I think we all would. Amir, I think we will, with the addition of Leo Thompson, I think it just makes us a better team. We sort of talked about that as well, Amir. I think that was your response to what we were saying. Yeah, it does. It gives us the ability to have that 1-2 punch, and having him as depth in our squad, if him or King are injured, we've got all these other players like Hughes and DSF, which have had this year and last year developing. DSF's played in some pretty good sides as a kid coming through. So, plus you got the likes of Lipoy, Hopboy, who've got another season under their belt, fighting for their future next year in the top 30. Those three guys are all fighting for their future with Jack Todd. So that actually those four guys are all in the top 30 and all off contract. And from November this year are free agents. So does that mean they're going to sign elsewhere? I don't think so. But I think the four of them are going to be – there's a lot of competition there to sort of be that next man up. And they've got players like Harry Hayes, Satili Tupanua, who Serrato said was 110 kilos. Well, they must be lying on his profile then because it says he's about 101. I think he just sees him like he's that big. I don't think he knows, to be honest. So he probably just sees him. He plays like he's 110 kilos.
Runs that hard.
Yeah. So, look, the depth is good there because they've been timing these guys to the minute. But they have to prove themselves to get to that next level. And someone was making these big, outlandish statements that we have continued to buy shit players and let good players go. And when you go and do the math and actually compare the ones that have gone out for the ones that have come in, that statement couldn't be more false. Outside of Averillo and Alamotti, Nick Meaney, which we offered him we matched Melbourne's offer and he took the right deal, in my opinion. Outside of that, the players that are still sort of hanging around are lucky to get a 1-year extension. Like Braden Burns had a great season with Cowboys this year. Well done to him. Love Braden Burns. Rod Silver's nephew. Well done to, like, Raymond Fatala Marin has just been released. Corey Allen, I don't think's got a team anymore. All these players. Sean Lane's just retired. He was at the Dogs at one point. Joash Papali and Samrani, Gideon Katonga have all gone to Parramatta. All played a part there. Are they going to step up and become regular great first graders, or that's yet to be seen and proven? All the best to them. Or are they just a means to an end sort of thing, We will see. But, yeah, I think the Bulldogs are still building really, really well. And look, I think it's safe to say that the Bulldogs junior, Gordon, I can never say his surname, Kum Tong Chong or whatever it is. Sorry, I'm not reading it. If I read it, I can say it. He's coming onto our development list, is what I've heard, or what everyone should have heard. So he can play hooker, so that's some backup there. We've got Jake Turpin for another year. Cade Dykes, I think, if he gets himself going, could be an elite player one day. Like that's what Sharks were talking about with this guy, and he looked like an elite class. Like if you're talking about the Mitch Woods and all that, well, people were talking about this guy in Cronulla as being, the next great white shark for them, if you know what I mean. So his knees have let him down, resurrects under the Bulldogs like many have with knee injuries, and we could be seeing one of our spine players of the future in plain sight right there. Timing is also important, but Amir, I will say that we needed to bank those points. If we didn't bank those points, we don't get 2 bites of the cherry. It's as simple as that. And the confidence we got from banking the points early in the year really is the reason we finished third. And well done to everyone who was a part of the side while that happened. But, the amount of disruptions we had, for it all to be simplified as a Galvin, Sexton, Marnie, Hayward thing is just ridiculous. Absolutely. I just can't fathom how stupid people are, that they just don't value the 8 or 9 other players that were injured, suspended, on origin duty. And then what's their cop out for that, Gas? They say, oh, every team has injuries and origins and stuff and suspensions. Get over it.
We were already stretched in, that's why. We were already stretched in. We need our best players on the field, as you saw the other day without Critter. We need our best players. We're still, we don't have the depth of all the other teams. And, we work the best with what we've got. On the next one there, Gratitude saying that rumours are going around that Mitchell, I'm probably guessing you're referring to Samuel, his son, on the Dogs' radar. I don't think that's come out anywhere yet, other than potentially a few managers maybe talking to each other. Maybe Samuel's not aware of it. Hasn't heard anything, I think. So maybe it's just a few managers chatting amongst themselves, trying to see if they can make something with the Dogs.
Hey Pete, I reckon we should play your Preston and the Thief song for everyone to hear. Can't you see Preston diving over? Tracy running through the fields of clover. I can't remember the rest, but I love it. Dun, 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 dun. All right, Amir, I think Curran makes way. Well, look, if I'm putting me, where's me Gus Gould hat? Here's me Gus Gould hat. All right. Sorry, I'm getting a bit restless, Gas. Sorry about that, brother.
You're right, mate.
And just a good point, Pete. Spine will remain unchanged, in my opinion, as Gas said. I think you're right, Peter. 100%, brother. I think Curran makes way. Now, look, if I put my Gus Gould hat on, if I'm looking at that team and who's coming through, who's on their way out, and the decisions we've got to make around some people, the versatility we've got, that we've extended Hayes already. Hayes isn't on as much as what Curran's on. I think Curran's just probably on that. The amount of money that he's on probably makes him most at risk as one to leave the club at the end of his contract or leave earlier. I just think, and there's always little murmurs going around about stuff as well. So I think he's a player that I loved. I wanted to bring into the club. I still love. I would want to stay at the club because I love his desperation. He never gives up. He always tries hard, whether he's fully fit or not. I just think from a cap management point of view, he's one that'd be vulnerable in our squad for a junior to be extended underneath him, or if they've just sort of got to tinker around the edges to get someone big into the club and they just need to free up that little bit of cash. He's one that I think could be sacrificed. Four of our players have been included in the Kangaroos squad for the upcoming Ashes. Have they been included, Timmy? Or was that just talk
the
about
overall squad
might be included?
I think it might be the overall squad. I don't think they've. I think it's still the greater squad before they nut it out and pick the team. Yeah.
They got the Kangaroos, the predicted team from 5 days ago. I can't see his squad. I can only see the contenders from your squad. I don't know if it is the squad. I haven't seen the squad yet. Can you check that, Timmy, and get back to us?
Hopefully,
I
hope too many injuries. Yeah.
Carraz didn't play enough, and he actually had some poor games based on his injuries. You know, in the final series, Carraz getting driven back. I'll tell you what that means. He's struggling with injury. Because when he's 95% fit, he's doing what he does every game, you know what I mean? I wonder if they'll give it to Mark Nawangawitawase, considering he's pissing off. I wouldn't give it to him. I'd say, nah.
Well, leading try scorer, I mean, it's going to be hard if the points, if everything's in his favour, it's going to be hard not to give it to him, I think, if that's who they want to give it to. But I don't think Carraz has done enough this year, and I think the slow start he had, when I say slow, the fact that he missed the first bunch of games for us, so I think that's going to work against him. I think someone who's probably played a bit more. Yes, he was good that he was, in Origin camp this year and recognising everything, and I think he'll get his chance very soon. But yeah, we do need him fit. I mean, I alluded to in one of the previous podcasts, when you see him off the ball in Melbourne, he was really struggling. He was really struggling when even playing the ball and he was getting up, he was trying to put weight on that leg. He was out there doing the team thing, which we all love. Like, he was having a go, but he wasn't the same effective player that we know he could be. So yeah.
Yeah, Turpin, they said he's signed for another year, but Fox hasn't updated their list with Canterbury. I don't think they even bother with Canterbury. 0 tackles probably got it up there. But yeah, we need Terps for next year. We need him. And I'm actually excited to see what he can do with a bit of luck with injury, which is what Muggas has just said.
For all the team, probably, yeah.
He turned Manly down. Preston loves scoring against the Panthers. He certainly does, Timmy. Welcome, James. Storm coach said leading up to the Bulldogs game, we know what we do well. There you go. Timmy says we should do an all things Bulldogs grand final quiz. What do you think, gents? We probably should. It's just getting it organised, Timmy. Getting it organised. Oh, Margus, please don't talk like that about our players, mate. Honestly. Please piss Curran.
Curran was outstanding for us this year. If you remember when we had a few players out during the Origin period, he was playing a full 80 minutes and playing exceptional for us. Like, he's very underrated in the team, but he can only perform when he's on the field. Yes, he might have had a couple of bad games where his hands let him down, but overall, I mean, he had an outstanding season for us. He was one of those guys that just kept doing his job, and every time he's out there, he turns up. He has a go. He has a go.
I don't get the like. People just get so much tunnel vision on shit. Hey, like,
yeah.
And sorry to have a crack. Look at me. I'm sitting here in as a couch coach, but I'm doing this, and the reason I'm here is for comments like that, just to rip the fuck out of them, because I just don't cop it, mate. I don't cop it. Let's piss Curran off. Like, no. It's almost as stupid as saying piss the Prime Minister off, whoever we've got. That one person doesn't make the difference to us being happy or us doing well or doing shit. You've got to. It's a team effort. It's a collective effort. And as far as the effort he's put in for our club, playing prop in the middle against some of the biggest boys and not shirking the task. Yeah, there was some games where he didn't run it hard or he coughed the ball up, as Gas said. But for the most part, he put his ass on the fucking line. And I'm not copping that.
And he does amazing stuff. He does amazing stuff for the Bulldogs outside of the club as well. He's our leader in the Ken Stevens medal and everything. He does so much for the community and everything. He's a champion, Curran.
Michael, let's get all make a ticket to Vegas. Well, look, guys, if you want to start, someone start me a GoFundMe and go do it. But you got to raise enough for me missus because I will marry my missus in Vegas if I get to go.
I can carry your bags, mate.
Look, if we get 15 grand, I can take 2 people with me.
Okay, mate.
So there you go.
Done.
But apparently, like they've worked, like there's people doing some great stuff with this Vegas stuff. And when I talk about my website, I'm actually might get links to people who are going where they can,
sure.
where it'll direct you to places where if you are going, you can find cheap places to eat, ways to survive if you're sort of struggling to scrape the money together to get over there. There's a lot of people doing some pretty good stuff that have shared a lot, especially people who have already been there once or twice.
Yep.
It's only going to get better too, the way that works too, the community going to Vegas. And Margot says with salmon, Margot, if you're in Sydney, what I'm just going to say to you is go to the sign-on day and literally ask if Serrato or someone's there or one of the players you really love, just ask them, say, why do you think Jamin's when I watch the game, I don't see Jamin Salmon as a huge contributor. Tell me, why is he important to Canterbury? Why is he getting picked? And they might have a joke and say because he's the coach's pet or something, but I doubt it. They're going to tell you why, and then you'll learn a bit more about the game because I'm sick of fucking, trying to
justify it.
Kill kick this dead horse or whatever it is. I agree with that. Was Preston's suspension the reason he didn't get nominated?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. So come down to the rules.
Yep.
Timmy
Thanks,
agrees about Curran. Michael, yep. Sorry, Gas, I'm just flicking through them, brother.
No, go, mate. Keep going, mate.
Exactly, Tim. Whatever happened to Blake Taft? Didn't see him play much this year. Would have been go at fullback. Yeah, James, he got injured, so he was actually playing really well, which is why he got to play against the Dolphins. He played centre in attack and 5'8" he played 5'8" in attack and
centre in defence.
Yeah, or vice versa. I can't remember. It was mixed, whatever it was, because to compensate. And then what happened was, and that's because he was playing great rugby league in reserve grade and stuff. He was really coming into his own. He's doing well at training. And then he got injured. He got a really bad injury. And that's why he was. See, when Tracy went down against Manly, if Blake Taft's fit and ready, he comes straight into the side at fullback. There's no question. There would have been no other changes. Critter would only have been considered to go directly there if Critter's at full like fitness, which he hasn't been all year. And Jacob is willing to stand up there and have a crack at it because it's good for your career to play some fullback. It's a great move for your career. So that's why he does. Yeah, Sam Hughes is a good player too, Muggus, and another one they've kept developing. And if you knew what he was suffering through during that whole last 7 weeks of the competition, you probably wouldn't say too much about Sam Hughes. I can tell you that much. Jonathan Sewer. Well, Timmy, I hope John O'Sewer's still in the club. I know you said something about it. I spoke to someone high up in the club about Jonathan, and they're very, but this was about 5 or 6 weeks towards the end of the year, and they were very happy with his progress and what he was going to do in the future. But, see, one of the things with some of the players, you get a lot of players which have got relations and stuff, and not all of them get what they're after, or some of them feel they haven't got what they deserve or what they've earned. And that can actually infect other players as well. And when I say infect, I'm not so much infect, but affect. So there's always things in our juniors that we've got to deal with, right? And one of the hardest things to deal with for Canterbury juniors is that we've got such a small junior base that play above their weight, that we have to bring in these pathways players. We have to bring in these stars like David Bryanton from outside. And that does sort of annoy him a bit. And then when we see a kid who was a star and is still quite young, like Latu Fanu Latu, like Lachlan Galvin, and they walk straight into the 30, that also pisses people in the juniors off who probably been told or thought they were going to be the next big thing. So I hope Jonathan Sewer is part of that, not part of that one that's exiting the club, because I love his footwork and I think he could be anything, in my opinion. You can come, Timmy. You start the GoFundMe, brother. Don't worry about the super chats. Let's do the GoFundMe. Let's get it cranking. You fit me in your luggage. It'll cost you more than your ticket for the extra weight on the plane, mate. What are you talking about? You'll be paying $4,000 for the extra luggage. Nah, Timmy, Braden Hamlin-Uele, the Warriors actually offered him $750,000 a season, and he knocked it back to stay at the Sharks for $500,000. And I'll tell you something about him. Did you see how fit he was in that final series? I've never seen him as lean as he was. Him and his brother could have been anything. And I don't think his story's finished yet. So I wouldn't say no to him. He's just had too many knee injuries. And I think the weight of these guys is a contributing factor. Take a bit of weight off. Might help. It's being built now. It's being built now, isn't it, Gas?
Yeah, it's already started. They're already getting started, so it's all in the pipeline now. All the final bits and pieces are getting done, so they're getting ready to start soon. There was a few teething issues with a few things. That's it.
Put it this way, Mugguts. If we didn't have Curran, Salmon and Hughes in the last 2 years, we wouldn't have made the finals. I'll tell you that right now. Just so you know. And I wouldn't want you to shout me to Vegas. If I was the coach and I was making that decision, the fact is that all three are unlikely to be here in 2 years, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean we disrespect them or that we don't try and understand why they were important. Honestly, anyone watching this show thinks that they're watching rugby league, whether they go to games or watch through the television, thinks that they know more than people who coach the team, that you're delusional. But not to say that the coaches and that don't make mistakes and that they aren't still learning lessons themselves, okay? Montoya has to go to injury prone. Well, I wouldn't call a hip drop being injury prone, mate. And the fact that he played on an injury for how long beforehand, he was injured for 6 weeks carrying that leg injury. And he barely put a foot wrong. Like he didn't get the yips this year. He usually gets the yips and drops. I think he dropped a couple of balls in the trial, but that was it.
I think he had the neck injury. I think, yeah.
Yeah. Scotty Warren, welcome. How do I sum up Harry's year? I reckon I might have to make a AI song about Harry Hayes. Look, I felt he was injured coming into that final series, Scotty. So he wasn't 100%, but he had some really telling runs. You know, when we got a bit of momentum, Harry Hayes takes full advantage of it. There was a reason why we extended him, for another 2 years, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he had a great year. He was averaging over 100 metres, and that's because of the way we played the game of rugby league. And he contributed to that. But I think against the Penrith Panthers, he missed 8 tackles as well, you know. Everyone talked about Jamin Salmon, but Harry missed 8 tackles. But you know why he missed 8? Because he was trying to tackle everything out there. That's what. It's from line speed. When you've got this is what you've got to get your head around. When you've got great line speed and you're putting pressure on players and they know you're coming, they're gonna step and avoid. And while they're doing that, your other players clean them up. People don't get it. They don't get it. There's only a few misses which are concerning in a game. And there's teams that miss like 25. I think the Dragons hardly miss tackles at all, but where'd they finish?
Still let a lot of tries in, yeah.
Yeah. Will they upgrade Belmore Stadium as well? I doubt it, Timmy. So we won't be playing at Belmore for a couple of years, I'd say, while they get that centre of excellence built. You mean in 2002, James, when we got the salary cap?
2002, yeah.
Do you reckon we would have remained undefeated for the rest of the season? No, I don't. I think we actually would have got beaten in the grand final too. I always felt Roosters were better than us. I felt we won so many games that year that I just didn't think we were ready yet. That was like by 2004, I don't think the season was as good. But as a team and as a club, they were so hard and they were ready. And the team they beat in the 2004 grand final, like Ricky Stewart and Fittler still can't believe they lost. They can't believe they lost that game. Like it eats at them for the rest of their life. They'll never get over it. They'll never get over it. Michael Crocker, he'll never get over that, knocking that ball on. Ruin his whole career. He's never the same after that. Had some good matches, but never had good seasons like he did that year. And I think he was one that was actually talking to Braith in the game, you know, saying stuff like talking about Braith's misses and how he got to her and stuff. He was a bit of a disgusting pig, Michael Crocker, from what I heard on the field. Off the field, a good Redcliffe kid, good bloke, but one of the worst sledges that the game's ever seen.
It was one of the craziest starts to a game too. If you remember, there was
About
how many
20 knock-ons.
Knock-ons. Yeah. It was both ways. It was the funniest start to a game. You just didn't know what was going to happen. It was just your turn, my turn, Walker's turn, his turn. It was just crazy.
Walker's on. How many times do you reckon you watched that game?
I bought the video and I watched it so many times. Or it's the DVD back in those days. Sorry. I was watching it with Ray Hadley's commentary. I was watching it with the Channel 9 commentary. I wanted to see it so many different ways. It was good fun. But I actually was at the game and I didn't have tickets. That's a secret. No one knows. I got into that game without a ticket and watched it standing next to the coach's box because I didn't have a seat to sit in.
Oh my God! Wouldn't happen to this time.
No.
Timmy says Harry's an inspirational leader. Jeffro would have gained much confidence this season. Yeah, well, Jeffro's just a winner, you know. He just every grade he stepped up, and I think it's happening really quick for Jeffro. So it will be. I'll be keen to see how he comes through a pre-season. and how, because look, you could see from even the trial matches just the steel that him and players like Sewer had in bringing the ball out of yardage. Like they were just so good for such a young age, and they're only going to be better. Timmy says, I can see Cassius Tia taking over at lock forward at some stage. Yeah, I think he could be one to keep an eye on there, Timmy. But Cassius is an interesting... I think he's one that might be hiding in plain sight, which could play a big role in us next year, especially after... I'm not sure if he's on the development list or if he's on the train and trial again, but he's definitely got a contract for next year.
It's a lot of skill too.
Amir says Latu for now or Jack Toby our future lock. Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether they. I'm not sure of Latu's ball playing ability. I need to see how that evolves. And Jack Todd's got great footwork. He sort of reminds me a lot of Cameron Murray with the way his footwork is. But he's sort of at that size where I reckon he can get even bigger. Like he might actually be a really solid middle to have in your team that can offload, can do it all, and a real type of bulldog. But again, he might play this year. If he breaks his arm again and he may not get another contract. You know what I mean? It's so cutthroat for so many of our players at the moment.
Yep.
It's all going to depend on how the cookie crumbles and how every player there is going to need not just to train well and work hard and excel. They're going to need a bit of luck as well. No worries, Scotty. G'day, D. And big thanks to D who's provided all the stats which are scrolling along the bottom there. I'll let you take over for a bit, Gas.
He's saying, hey, Mick, love your passion for the Bulldogs and the game in general. It would be great if you could bottle that passion and sell it. You could call it Mickey Juice, ATB edition, all things Bulldogs.
I reckon
we sell it at game day.
I'll take you to the new website that we've created, and that might be a new heading, a new page on there, the Mickey Juice. I'll sell it. I'll do some bath water as well. How's that sound?
No thanks.
Like Sydney Sweeney style, yeah. Not that I know about that or have any in the cupboard.
COVID brought toilet paper to the light, and now Reece Walsh has brought drinking the toilet water to light. So it's just crazy times, mate. Crazy times.
Look, if Reece can do it, I can do it. Michael says, do you think Jethro will be starting next year on Montoya? Montoya will be starting, mate, unless he's behind the 8 ball with his fitness. If Jethro's out there competing hard and they reckon he's the one to start, they'll start him. I won't be tipping against – put it this way, experienced players I think will start the season if they're fit and ready. And they'll be given first opportunity. How many see how much muscle Galvin and Jethro pack on? Well, look, if Galvin comes back and he's weighing about 90 kilos, he's done well because he's struggled to put weight on. But they've got a program with him and they're not going to, he's not just going to be left to his own devices with this program. They'll be at him to develop that muscle. Todd's been extremely unlucky with injuries. Though Fino will spend some time in Reggie's. Yeah, I think he will. Do you think Hayward's defence will get stronger in the contact at hooker next year with preseason under his belt? Well, he leads the line speed, and I actually noticed that it's getting better all the time. It will get better. It's always going to get better, Blake Brayley's been there for how many years developing similar sort of size. And he was a genuine hooker coming through. I know that. But I think for Bailey, it's his speed of pass off the deck. It's his vision around the ruck and able to play heads up. And it's for me, I find that halfbacks turn into hookers are actually better in attack because they, especially if they're instinctive sort of players, like they just run to where there's space. But if the instruction is for him just to sit there and feed the ball and to play a style, which is what they've done at Penrith for years, and it's won grand finals. We'll see what happens with that. But I think as far as the contact in defence, he's only always going to get better at it. And like against that game against Melbourne where people talked about his 14 missed tackles, as I said, 8 or 9 of them were just line speed out of dummy half and stuff, out of second marker and stuff, just putting pressure on players who have just evaded him. There were a few which were just due to the fact they were singling him out, and now forwards weren't there to protect him, which happens to Reid all the time. And the other part is that Bailey made a number of one-on-one tackles in that match, which I sort of didn't expect him to actually make. So he's definitely coming on in leaps and bounds, and he'll continue to evolve. And I think the best way for that to happen is if he gets to play stints and just, probably not start every game, maybe start for 3 games and then come off the bench after 20, sort of mix it and match it. I think we might see a little bit of that, but it's all for them to know and for us to find out. All right, Gas, you can handle this one, mate.
Do you think the Dogs would have won the comp in 2003 if they didn't get stripped? I think you just answered that one. I think, and we just added that it was 2002 and it was actually 17 straight, not 19. But there was a very famous one there, if you do remember, Andrew Johns looking over his head as Hassan kicked it from the sideline against Newcastle. That was always one to remember. So Timmy is just giving us his back line for the Vegas team. So pretty much our strongest one that we've had this year, that we had all year. So no change there. And Pete has just jumped in. Tia is on a supplementary list for 2026 and is a good player, yes. I've watched him at training a few times, training with the first and running plays. He's got a lot of skill and a lot of talent, mate. There was a lot of times he was doing some things that, even at the time, like not saying it now, but he was outdoing Sexton on a lot of the just very simple things, mate. He was taking drop goals, doing all sorts of plays, and it was very, very easy for him. So, so he's a very good talent. That be interested to see where he goes, Cassius.
All right, guys. This is the new website. So it's still under construction. It's called dogfathermedia.com.au. And it's got a whole bunch of stuff in there. I haven't got everything aligned. It's still a work in progress. It's going to have a lot of articles there and stuff like that. It's got your menus. So we've got all things Bulldogs articles. So the aim for this, guys, is to get rid of Fox's influence on Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs Facebook groups and sites, to the point where if they don't start sharing accurate, balanced, fair articles from myself and my mates that are helping with this, Gas and Jimmy and Peter and such, and a heap of others, are just going to flood with articles which will tell you everything that they'll tell you. They'll just give you added layers of context. A Foxtel preview, for example, an early preview, they never have any information than we actually don't know ourselves. So for all the guys who love reading articles, we're going to have articles coming out your butt. This is the team so far. We've got myself there, Jimmy Russler, Gassan, and D. There's David Middleton, D. And look, I'll probably even get Michael working on this to help D out with the stats. Look, we're a community, guys, and if you want to help and contribute, that's exactly why we're here. We've got the Buzz 360 section, which has got your video, your stuff about with Peter Volandis and Buzz and Braith. And we've also got these little comics, which are quite hilarious. Basically, each episode sort of tells you what happened from the previous one, and you get to make up the rest. I've actually got my daughter starting to make up stories in the same style. It's actually a really funny thing. And Dee created all of these. So they're quite funny as well. What else have we got? Now, at the moment, the player profiles, we just link it directly to the Bulldogs website. And that's important too, is that the Bulldogs website's got so much in it, and we want people going there. But, they can continue to make theirs better, hopefully. And I think they made really good. I think the Bulldogs social media year was the best it's ever been this year, and I think it'll only be better next year as well. But any help we can give them, that's what we're going to do. So we've got all the teams there. I'll get the jersey flag and that is in there as well. Plus, you got the links to the membership and merch of the Bulldogs store. We've got some videos that I've done. But the real one that I'll be focusing heavily on is the new breed section, where I'll have the player profiles and highlights of all the youngsters coming through. So we've got Cassius Tia here, for example, and that'll bring up his video around there with all his stuff that I'll get off that. We've got Sasire Alatini, David Bryonton, the new recruit, who looks a really good player. We've got his highlights here as well from the recent high school championships, and good old CJ Uday, Elaine Uday's son.
He is our
who's definitely one of the people there. So that's the website. We've also got the countdown to Vegas, and Gas is doing some really good little posts. Every day he's going to do a post of the countdown. So we're up to 152 days out. He's going to tell you the Bulldog number 152. So you actually get to go back in time and look at the Bulldogs players that were playing back then. They're short and sweet. They just show you the photo and give you a few little stats and how that number relates to a Bulldog. So, for example, what was the stat for 151, Gas?
152 yesterday. We had two players that had scored 152 points, Willie Talau and Josh Adokar, remember?
Oh, is it Josh Morris?
No, Josh Adokar, 152 points. Yeah, 152 points. And then, same thing the other day. I think we had 155, and there was Brent Sherwin or something had scored 155 points, etc. So whatever we can get that's a number that matches with the days to go, it's a Bulldog stat. Games played for a player, etc. It'll be there. So I'll be posting one as soon as we finish this for 151 days out now. So
we'll keep an eye on that, guys. So look, we're just going to pump this site full of everything. So it'll be a one-stop shop in conjunction with it's going to lead, all roads will lead back to the actual Bulldogs website as well, and also to All Things Bulldogs YouTube channel, our Facebook groups. And I'm going to try and make sure we're sharing to all the different podcasts, all the different players for the Bulldogs by Instagram and whatever else. Whether they're engaged with me or not, I'm still going to link towards them if they've got strengths like Brave Dog and whatever else. I really love Hectic Fred's commentary on games. Cracks me up. And I agree with a lot of what he says too. But, like that sort of stuff, I'm going to promote the hell out of it. Timmy, New South Wales Cup backline. Dykes, Sewer, Tuala, Luke Smith, Ortia, Rinikama, O'Sullivan, and Woods. There you go. Not too bad, buddy. Will you get paid? Well, you'll get paid when I start getting paid, mate, and that won't be for a while. Thank you, champion. We'll catch up, and we'll catch up on Messenger or something. If you're on Facebook, message me.
We're coming for Penrith next year. Well, we're coming for them this year, mate. We nearly got there, but not quite close enough. But 3 years ago, we wouldn't have beat their reserve grade side. Simple as that, even with our best team. They still would have beat us. We do it for the love, says Gas. Thanks, Timmy. 30% off Bulldogs merchandise for members. Well, I've got the link to there as well. I've got the link to there, Timmy.
Yeah, there's a lot of sizes there too, guys. If you haven't got all your jerseys, like the 30-year anniversary jersey, there was a lot of sizes and stuff. 30% off. It was actually pretty good. I think it was down to about $112, which was very good. That was, very quickly after the season finished. So if you haven't already done so, jump on and grab some merch.
So you can click the Bulldogs team store there. It takes you all the way there, and it's got 30% off. And I was so annoyed. It was literally 2 days after I went and bought my stuff. It's a ways away, but that's all right. It's hard to sell merch once the season's over. It's natural.
For everyone that doesn't know, that was Mick's way of lost therapy after the Bulldogs lost. He went and bought some merch to just overcome the end of the season. So,
and here's this page just showing you what Gas is doing. So 153 days of Vegas. Jim Tuttle was player number 153. It was a lock. He debuted in 1948 in round 17 versus the Rabbits. In our 153rd match, Newtown defeated us 44-10 on the 2nd of June 1945. So just a couple of little things as we count down to Vegas for those playing at home. That's pretty much the website at the moment. It
still
also
in development.
Groups. So there you go. I'd also take you to Zero Tackle. And these are the articles that I've done for Zero Tackle, which is quite some of them have got 7,000 and 8,000 views, which is pretty good for an independent. I'm happy with that. How do I stop that? All right, we're back. Timmy says also congratulations to CJ Uday on graduating this week. Yes, very well done to CJ and to all the boys. I think Max Afawalo, who
I think you're frozen there, Mick. Maybe, guys, if you can hear me, start giving us some of your score predictions for this week. What do you guys think the grand final will be and who will win and by how much? What's the prediction you guys have got?
We cut out for a bit there, Gas.
I think you cut out, but while you were gone, I've asked for a score prediction and for the grand final this week. See what people think.
I'll definitely get links out to Jammer, mate. Unfortunately, his partner in crime, I can't believe Jammer doesn't jam one up his throat sometimes. Gas met them the other week. He says, I think we need to put a new fullback to get to that next level, not being negative, just reality. Look, I think Connor Tracy against Manly was our best player in the field. No, actually, he was our best player all season.
Yeah.
So, do we need a fullback? I think he makes line breaks. He makes try assists. He's got a lot of in his game. But I think salary cap wise, when you got a player like Stephen Crichton there on $1 million, he should be in a spine position realistically. But Connor Tracy, I'm happy to keep him in the squad, play him on the wing. You know what I mean? He's just a good player. And prior to that injury, he was our best player, and he was actually really good in our final series too.
Yeah.
But if we got the player that was playing against Manly for those last few rounds and he didn't get injured, I know it's what if, but we don't suffer the same way we did. It's just a fact. Sav Gunn, welcome to you, Sav. Fair shaker to Sav. And I will say that I think it's going to be Lachlan Galvin and Matt Burton to start the season. Now, if Matt Burton's not in the sixth jumper, that will be because he's injured. It'll be because he's decided he wants to play 13, which I don't think is going to happen. And I think if he's playing centre, it'll be because he's decided he's going to try and go on the open market, which I don't think is going to happen either. Saying the Bulldogs website is not updated regularly, I often have to source info from elsewhere for the group to provide correct info. Yeah, Pete, what I've found is I think a lot of the information is standardised across all teams, and I think the NRL has to take information and then update it themselves. I don't know if the Bulldogs actually have full control over the website, but yeah, that's something that needs updating. And honestly, if I had the information given to me, I'd update it I'd get up half an hour early every day just to do it for nothing. The Dogs team store still has 2023 training shorts available. Mike said, in answer to your question, Gas, nil or draw for the grand final. And it goes for 13 days at nil all. That'd be fantastic. Payne Huss retires after the grand final, having never won one. Timmy, Storm 26, Brisbane 10. Michael, 16-18 to the Broncos. Merton isn't as good as what everyone thinks. What do you think? I think Burton is one of the best players in our teams, and I'll explain why. You just got to look at how many times he's been the man to get us to victories. It's not just his boot. It's when he puts the foot on the throttle, we do well and we win. I think what people make the mistake of saying is that every time there's a loss, they like to blame it on halves. It's just a cop-out. Coaches like to do it because it's when they're losing games, it's a way of shifting the focus because a lot of these coaches go into protection mode to protect their jobs. And it's just human. And fans go into protection mode as well. And fans just follow narratives and rhetoric. And to me, Matt Burton, he's a big body. He has to play fit. He was doing the goal kicking. He's doing the lion's share of the kicking. He's a running half. And he's part of a team that plays a style which isn't naturally the same as a lot of other teams. So I don't necessarily ever really look too much at Burton's stats. What I look at is what he's contributing into a game. And each year I see him more influential, more passionate. And he was on fire like the first two rounds. It was the best round one game that he's had since being at the club. And the first 20 minutes of round two, he was on fire. He copped an MCL injury. It set him right back for the year. But he had his best preseason of all since he's been at the club. And he's just had so many setbacks this year. It's been a frustrating year. But he scores that match winner against the Roosters. You know, the field goals, he's got clutch field goals to win matches for our club. The games where we've just been under the absolute pump and he's kept us in it with his kicking game. That 40-20 that he did, right, that, you know, the biggest 40-20 we've seen in a very, very long time.
2090.
What? Yeah, the 20. Who was that against? Was that Manly?
No, I think that was. I think it was a game that we might have lost.
No, I think we won it. We won it. Was it the Warriors? I've got to look at it now. I can't not know this.
Wasn't it the Roosters? Wasn't it the Roosters?
No.
He did it late in the year. It was one of the later games that he did.
Yeah.
And they spoke about it after. It was Warriors, maybe. In the wet. There was two of them. He did 2 weeks in a row. He did two weeks in a row.
I have to do this. I have to find it. I cannot. The kick of the year, Matt Burton. It was the Warriors.
There was two that he did off memory. There was one against the Warriors he did, and there was another one I think it might have been against the Roosters that he did. That might have been an even bigger one.
Yeah, that was massive. It was a 2010. Kicked it from just outside the 20 and it went out 10 metres out against the Warriors.
Yeah.
So, massive work. But, yeah, sorry, Sav, I think Matt Burton is I don't care what commentators say. In my opinion, he's one of the best players in our team and the most influential. And for us to win the big game. And if you go and watch that Storm game, he does things in that game. Like, that's one of the most heartbreaking things to see. Toby Sexton comes on. He's got nothing to lose. Scores off his first touch, off a ricochet off his leg. Had some really good runs that the Storm didn't expect. Quick play the ball, space then for us to go and score easily, and Galvin straightened up from there. But what Matt Burton did, when we led 18-14 off the back of a lot of stuff he did, really tough carries. We just defended our line for a couple of sets leading 18-14. He takes a run. Him and Viliami both took runs out of our back end, which just put the game into our favour where we were going to go downfield and pressure the hell out of the Storm and go on and win that match. Max King follows up with a really good run to the halfway, and then Toby Sexton puts it out on the full. And for me, not to have a crack at Toby, but Toby showed in that game why he was able to come back into the team, but also why he's leaving the team. You got your answer right there why those changes happen. But what Matt Burton carried that team on his own. We lost Critter after about 14 minutes, but he stayed on the field for about another 3 or 4 as a passenger. And Matt Burton just took it on himself. So to say he's not as good as, I think Matt Burton's everything the rugby league player, and whether that means he's a Bulldog in 2 years' time is yet to be seen. But I think he's a fantastic player. He won't get 5'8" of the year, Michael. Too many injuries, too much time off.
Yep. He could one day, though, but not this year.
Mick, what was your Bronco time when you played footy, if you did one? What are you talking about? I'm not sure what you mean, bro. Do you know what that means, Gas?
No, didn't register either.
Sorry, mate. I'm not sure what that means, mate. Yeah, Michael, I don't think Burton will get 5'8" of the year. I think that'll go to Cameron Munster. Actually, no, I think it'll go to Ethan Strange of the Raiders.
Yep.
Yeah, he did a good kick against the Roosters as well there, Gas. Michael, the stats man's all over it.
That's the game I was saying to you, the one that we lost when he kicked it. But you got to remember, I was remembering all these from when I was overseas. I wasn't here for that one.
Sav, look, I think there's a lot of, as I said, there's a lot of shaping in narratives about sevens and stuff. Like people win comps, and then when they lose that player, like they spend the fan base and the club spends the rest of the next 2 decades trying to replace them for the most part. And it's almost an impossible task. And I think we don't really play a style which is a typical halfback 5'8" style. Like we've got 2 runners out there that can both throw balls that they need to throw, that can both kick, that can defend, and are learning the defence, and are pretty good for the most part. I think when Mitch Woods develops, he will craft himself in. But for me, Mitch Woods' his best attributes are his running game and his individual brilliance. Like
Joey
but
Johns.
he looks good passing the ball, and he can throw short passes and long passes, and he can do it all. But for Mitch Woods, it's going to come off how he defends. That's when we'll know he's ready, by how he's tackling blokes, not so much what he's doing with the ball.
I think also
Storm 22.
Mick, I think also for Sav, if you want to go and have a look at the podcast that Seraldo did yesterday, he actually talks about that as well, and how our halves work with our locks. I think you'll get some more understanding on it from the coach's mouth as well, if you want to have a look at the one that he did with the Kent's podcast.
Timmy, do you think Critter wins Captain of the Year? I think there's a good chance he could, but I reckon it might go to Joseph Tarpanay can't because he got suspended. I don't think he can win anything if he gets suspended. It could be James Tedesco.
Yeah. I think it'd be a hard press. Tedesco might do the double, I think. I think he might get the Daly M and the captain and the fullback.
It's quite funny in a season where they've had their worst finish ever, since they won the comp. It's just funny narratives,
Yeah.
And they actually had more Origin representatives, more internationals in their side than the Bulldogs do still, and way more experience. But anyway. They did lose. They did shed a lot of games of experience, that side. And I think they did have a pretty good year, with all that being said. Michael, the Bronco fitness test is a measure of capacity utilised by rugby teams. In this drill, players engage in a sequence of shuttle runs covering distance of 60, 40 and 20, repeated for 5 sets. Oh, thank you, Mike. I think Herbie Farnworth statistically is, and probably, I think he scores more points than. That's what I mean. I think it should be come down to how many Daly M points you score. Correct. As to who gets it. But I don't think it does, because if it did, I think Carraz would have got winger of the year last year.
Yeah.
My question, when it's time to ice a game, like a really important game like the Storm game, we like the proper half to say, give me the ball, let me control the rest of the game. Maybe.
I think you just got to take it. Kick on. That's where the kick on the full was the difference, yeah.
I think Sexton, I actually was critical of Sexton after the game against the Storm for that last part of the game. But then when I went and watched it, I felt that he actually had quite a few touches. Galvin never shirks away. He kept trying to get the ball. What it come down to was, I just think that the Storm cheated in the ruck the whole game. And we're allowed to. Like, you go and watch it, it's beyond comprehension how the interpretation of ruck can change from one game to another depending on the ref and depending on the team you play. Yeah, Dogs push the envelope because we have to, but they're just the best at it. And it's hard for your halves. That's what I mean, Sav. Like, I just find a lot of this rhetoric around halves owning the game in the back end. Like, they've said that about Hines. They said that about Fogarty, right? Fogarty didn't go missing when they lost. He just couldn't execute it. And I don't think he didn't communicate well enough to set up his field goals and that sort of stuff. A bit of panic come into it. But at the end of the day, he's still only a 5-year halfback in the NRL. The difference is Burton's, 4 or 5 years younger than Cameron Munster, 6 years younger than Mitchell Moses. He's the same age as Stephen Crichton. They're about 3 or 4 years younger than Nathan Cleary, right? So he's nowhere near his peak. And I don't think he has, and he's always been someone, he's iced matches before. To beat the Warriors last year with the field goals, to beat Cronulla last year, they were big matches for us. We don't make the finals without them. Those 1-point wins were big matches. Yeah, I can't say enough.
He was also
I think he's still got to go to another.
Too.
I think he's got to be more consistent at his best, yes, for us to progress, yes. But I expect that, I feel that he just continues to improve anyway. Like, his best gets better, in my opinion, every year. And the difference between his worst and his best is a lot less. Like, he probably had one bad game this year, which was his return from injury. And we won the game easy, but he had like 5 errors. Trying too hard. But outside of that, I felt the difference between his best and his worst game is a lot less than it used to be.
But for that game as well, Mick, he was also moved out to the centres once Critter went off as well. So it's a bit hard to judge him on icing that game when he was playing in the centres when Sexton came on as well. But he still did very well. He still very, very well to actually even score that try to put them in front. And that was on his back as well.
And in the final against the Penrith Panthers, he tore his AC joint on the Thursday before the game. So it affected him. So who wins Coach of the Year? Or they're going to give it to Ricky Stewart.
Ricky Stewart. Yeah, very hard not to give it to Ricky, I think. Because they don't take finals into contention, that's why.
Yeah. I'd be giving it to but who knows? They might just give it to Madge Maguire. The flavour of the month. But I think Ricky's won it. I think you're right there. Look, guys, I think that's pretty much us tonight. Have you got anything else you wanted to talk about, Gas?
No, that's all, mate. Enjoy the last game of the regular season, guys, and then it's after that the Kangaroo Tour. So, but
we'll have plenty of updates on that. So, thanks for asking those questions about the Daly M too, Timmy, because we really helped us carry that along. We'll finish it up with Amir and Sav's comments, and after that, guys, we're going to head off. Yep, agree with that, Amir. I was slowing the ruck down a lot. It was bullshit. That was our grand final. Burton made that run, and that said he did his job. This is when you need a 7 to come in, not to choke under pressure. And that's what happened, mate. And you're 100% correct there. The good thing was Toby was there ready to kick the ball. Bad thing was he executed poorly, and that one play we just defended our line for 2 sets, and then we had to do it again, and they got a 6 again, and that's when Oitika Manu picks out Curran, who's obviously one of the ones that just made a shitload of tackles, and then they score that try, which I still think the Tyrone was shot bobbled the ball.
Bobbled the ball.
It bobbled, and they only showing us one little side view of it. And same as Elise Katoa in round 25, didn't ground the ball. No one saw it. They never showed it. Never cared about it. Michael, Vegas prediction 50-0. Well, Get me GoFundMe going, brothers. I want to marry me missus over there. Times are tough. Thanks, Mick and Gas. Up the doggies.
Thanks, Timmy. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, Gas, for tonight. You've been sensational. And thanks to everyone who joined and come along. And make sure you get to the website. There'll be a lot of links going out on all the socials, which will direct you there. And, and support the Bulldogs website as well. Support all the content creators. Thank you very much. Take
Thanks,
care,
guys.
everyone, and go the Dogs this weekend in the grand final.